Imagine standing in a narrow mountain pass knowing that within hours, the most powerful army on Earth is about to crash into you like a tidal wave. Not hundreds of soldiers. Not thousands. We're talking about an army so massive that ancient historians claimed it could darken the sky with arrows. And yet just 300 warriors stood there and said, "Let them come." This isn't a movie script. This actually happened. And what makes the story even more insane is that those 300 soldiers weren't trying to win the battle. They were trying to buy time that would eventually save all of Greece. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this battle became one of the most legendary last stands in human history and why the Spartans willingly marched toward almost certain death. To understand Thermopylae, you first need to understand the enemy. Persia wasn't just another kingdom. Around 480 BC, it was the largest empire the world had ever seen. It stretched from India to Egypt, controlling millions of people and enormous resources. At the center of this empire stood King Xerxes I, and Xerxes had one goal: crush Greece completely. The reason goes back 10 years earlier. Persia had already tried to invade Greece once before. But at the Battle of Marathon, a much smaller Greek force shocked the world by defeating them. That defeat humiliated Persia. For Xerxes, revenge wasn't optional, it was personal. So he prepared an invasion on a scale no one had ever seen. Massive armies marched across land. Huge supply lines stretched for miles. Persian engineers even built bridges across the sea so the army could cross faster. Ancient writers claimed millions of soldiers joined the invasion. Modern historians estimate something closer to 100,000 to 200,000 troops, which was still terrifyingly massive for the time. Meanwhile, Greece had a serious problem. Greece wasn't a single united country. It was a collection of city-states like Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and others. And most of the time, they argued and fought each other. But the Persian invasion forced them to cooperate. Greek leaders knew one thing immediately: fighting Persia in an open field would be suicide. The Persian army was simply too big. If the Persians marched straight into Greece, city after city would fall. So Greek commanders started thinking differently. Instead of trying to defeat the Persian army everywhere, they needed to slow it down somewhere. Geography could become their greatest weapon. That's when they chose Thermopylae. Thermopylae was a narrow coastal pass squeezed between steep mountains and the sea. In some places it was so tight that only a small number of soldiers could fight side by side. Imagine trying to push thousands of troops through a narrow hallway while defenders block the entrance. Suddenly the advantage of huge numbers disappears. If the Greeks could hold this choke point, the Persian army would be forced to attack in small groups. Their massive numbers wouldn't matter anymore. And leading this defense would be Sparta. Sparta had a reputation across Greece that bordered on myth. Their entire society was built around warfare. Spartan boys began military training at a young age and spent their lives preparing for battle. Discipline, toughness, and loyalty were everything. But here's something many people misunderstand about the famous 300 Spartans. Sparta didn't send only 300 soldiers because that was all they had. They actually had thousands. The real reason was timing. The Persian invasion happened during a major Spartan religious festival called the Carneia. Spartan law forbade launching full military campaigns during this sacred period. But they couldn't ignore the invasion either. So King Leonidas, one of Sparta's 2 kings, marched north with a small elite force of 300 personal guards. These weren't ordinary soldiers. Each one had been carefully selected, and every man had a living son to carry on his family name in case he died in battle. And Leonidas wasn't alone. Soldiers from other Greek city-states joined the defense as well. In total, around 7,000 Greek warriors initially held the pass. Even so, they were massively outnumbered. When Xerxes finally arrived at Thermopylae and saw the small Greek force blocking his path, he reportedly couldn't believe it. According to ancient sources, he sent a messenger demanding that the Greeks surrender their weapons. Leonidas responded with two legendary words, Molon Labe. It means, "Come and take them." For several days Xerxes waited, expecting the Greeks to panic and run away. They didn't move. Finally, the Persian king ordered his army to attack. What followed shocked the Persians. Wave after wave of soldiers charged into the narrow pass. But the Spartan fighting style was designed for exactly this situation. Their heavy bronze armor protected them. Their long spears gave them reach. And their famous phalanx formation created a tight wall of shields and weapons that was extremely difficult to break. Persian soldiers, wearing lighter armor and using shorter weapons, struggled to push through. The narrow terrain meant they couldn't surround the Greeks or use their full numbers. Even the immortals, the elite Persian warriors, failed to break the line. Attack after attack was thrown back. Persian casualties piled up while the Greeks held their ground. For 2 days the defenders successfully blocked one of the largest armies on Earth. But then everything changed. Hidden in the mountains above Thermopylae was a small path that could bypass the main pass. A local Greek named Ephialtes betrayed the defenders and revealed this secret route to Xerxes. That night Persian troops quietly marched through the mountains. By morning they had reached the other side of the pass, behind the Greek army. Leonidas soon learned the terrible truth. The Persians were about to attack from both directions. At that moment Leonidas faced a brutal choice. Retreat and save his men, or stay and delay the enemy as long as possible. He chose the second option. Leonidas ordered most of the Greek army to withdraw and regroup elsewhere. But he and his 300 Spartans remained behind. Around 700 Thespians and a smaller group of the bands also chose to stay. These soldiers knew exactly what that decision meant. They were not going to survive. The final day of the battle was pure chaos. Persian forces attacked from the front and from behind. The defenders fought with incredible determination. Spears broke during the fighting, so warriors switched to swords. When swords shattered, they fought with daggers and bare hands. Ancient writers describe desperate combat as dust filled the air and arrows rained down from above. King Leonidas himself was killed in the battle. His body became the center of fierce fighting as Spartans tried to recover and protect their fallen king. Eventually the remaining defenders were pushed back to a small hill. There, surrounded by thousands of Persian soldiers, they made their final stand. A massive volley of arrows ended the fight. The defenders of Thermopylae were gone. At first glance, it looked like a complete Persian victory. They had finally broken through the pass and continued their march into Greece. But strategically, the story was far from over. Those few days of resistance gave the rest of Greece something incredibly valuable: time. Time to organize armies. Time to strengthen defenses. Time to prepare fleets. Later that same year, the Greek navy destroyed the Persian fleet at the Battle of Salamis. Without naval support, Xerxes' massive army suddenly faced supply problems and growing resistance. Then in 479 BC, Greek forces delivered a decisive blow to Persia at the Battle of Plataea. The Persian invasion collapsed, and Greece remained independent. The stand at Thermopylae became a powerful symbol across the Greek world. It showed that courage, discipline, and strategy could stand against overwhelming odds. Centuries later, a monument was placed at the site of the battle with a simple inscription that captured the spirit of the defenders. "Stranger, go tell the Spartans that we lie here, obedient to their laws." 300 Spartans and their allies stood against an empire. They didn't expect to win. They expected to hold the line long enough for the rest of Greece to survive. And in the end, that sacrifice helped change the course of history. If you enjoyed this story of courage and strategy, make sure to like the video and subscribe.